Hi, my name is Cornelius Abayo, and today I have Specialist Adam.
Sergeant Adami.
Sergeant Adami. Okay, can you introduce yourself really quick?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sergeant Adami. I'm the Religious Affairs NCO stationed here at Fort Carson, Colorado. I work alongside the chaplain.
Great. So I'm here to interview him for the class today, and so here we go. What is the name and purpose of the organization?
Okay, so yeah, like you said, we volunteer at multiple organizations, one being the Wednesday Family Night Services. So every Wednesday between 1600 and 2000, we do like a Bible study at the Main Post Chapel where there's opportunity for kids to learn more about the gospel, whether it's Hispanic services, there's all types of different types of services provided, religious in nature.
Okay. Great. Okay. And what are the demographics of the adolescents or early adolescents with whom you work with? So do you have any demographics with the people you work with?
So what I work with the little kids. So
Okay.
I work with all ages between pre-kindergarten all the way up to 6th grade.
Okay.
So there's a total of about, I want to say like 100 kids.
Okay.
So every hour on the hour, we're switching out, doing like, I guess you could say like recess time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a little game time for the children to basically get outside and exercise.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I need to join all the games.
Yeah.
That's what you guys do. I didn't even know this exists. So.
Yeah.
So is your organization involved with local schools?
Yeah, local schools. Yes, all the schools around Fort Carson, even off post.
Mm-hmm.
All the little kids that go to the schools around here.
Mm-hmm. So I know you also go to like Metro High School. That's like I went there for 3 events.
Mm-hmm.
We gave us some food and actually had I got a chance to get a plate, like a crate of food as well. So,
Oh yeah, food distribution. That's
yeah,
good.
that was interesting. I want to do it again. So
Yeah.
Okay. What are the desires or stated outcomes? Okay, what are the desired or stated outcomes are for the adolescents or early adolescents with whom you work with, and what are the methods and tools you use to measure the outcomes? It's a long question. I'm gonna break it down.
Okay.
So what are the desires, outcomes for the? So what are the outcomes that you want from what you do?
Okay. Yeah. So the outcomes for us is, like I said, all the kids. It's a time for them to be, I guess you could say, daycare while
Yes.
their parents are going through Bible studies. There's all types of different Bible studies.
Mm-hmm.
We have youth groups there as well. But what I do is basically, I guess you could say I'm more like the daycare guy.
Yeah.
So I get help from some other parents around Fort Carson, and we
Mhm.
basically watch the kids during the time so the parents can further their religious beliefs as well.
Oh, okay, great. And the second part of the question is, what are the methods and tools you use to measure the outcomes? So do you have any tools or method that you use?
So the only methods I use, again, for kids,
Yeah.
we use a bunch of gaming equipment. So whether it's cones or anything for them to run around, basically keep them running, basically.
Oh, great. Now for the last question here is, what are the adolescents or early adolescents motivated? How are they motivated based on your organization, based on what your organization does or believes about their development? So how are they motivated based on what you believe, what your organization does?
Okay, so yeah, the motivation I believe for the little kids is when they first come outside of the chapel, they see the games, they see everything set up, they're like, oh, we're gonna play another game.
Okay.
Or some of the kids are really excited. So the motivation basically balances. You have those kids that like don't want to do anything at all and just want to go play on the playground or sit around, and you have those kids that really want to play. So I would say the equipment that's already set up for them.
Oh, outstanding. Hey,
Yeah.
thank you very much for this interview.
Yeah.
And there you have it.
Y'all have a good day.
You have enough. I'm just gonna share the screen with you right now. So that way it's more convenient for both of us. Okay.
Your goal is to become a math teacher?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. You will find a job quick.
I hope so.
They are in desperate need of teachers, let alone math teachers are
Mhm.
the highest need.
Yes, I always find myself to enjoy doing math. So that's my only subject that I really enjoy doing. So I hope to share my skills with my students.
And that's a weird thing to a counselor.
Yes, sir. All right, just share this with you really quick. Okay. All right. Are you able to see that, sir?
I am.
Okay, awesome. All right. So for this interview, I'm required to interview a school counselor or a psychologist. So in this case, I'm gonna go with the school counselor.
Okay.
Involved with adolescents or early adolescents regarding his or her responsibilities and type of student data they analyze. So may I ask, do you have any data reports that you review within the school's rules in maintaining?
And any what?
Do you have any data? So like right here.
Sure.
So with school rules
Gotcha.
of maintaining student confidentiality. So, okay, so
Yeah, we look at, I mean, we get test scores, you know, all the kids take standardized testing.
okay,
So we have access to that. The, you know, freshmen take the PSAT 8-9, then sophomores take the PSAT 10, juniors take the SAT. So that's all data that we look at.
okay.
You know, we keep tabs on behavior.
Mhm.
Of course, we have the report cards and everything, which are all data as well.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
A school psychologist works more with special education.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's a whole nother set of data because they do a lot of testing for both intellectual functioning and for social emotional.
Okay. And I had this, the school psychologists, they usually collect some data from, usually from elementary school or middle school before they go to high school. And then
Well, they for a student to be in special education on an IEP, they're tested every 3 years.
okay.
And so they do a variety of tests to assess where their deficits are, where their strengths are.
Oh, okay.
And they can start as early as, actually, I think they start as early as kindergarten.
Wow.
But we have staffings and we have annual staffings on those kids to kind of assess how they're doing. But then once again, every 3 years, or if necessary before that, they do a whole nother set of testing and, you know, bring the data up to current speed.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna go straight to the questions right now. So, okay, I'm gonna go with this one right here. So, what are the primary responsibilities and activities of the counselor?
Okay. Well, we do both the black and white stuff of scheduling, looking at credits, looking at graduation requirements and all of that.
Okay.
And that's a pretty Herculean task in itself because there's so many different requirements. You got to just stay on top of, I mean, for example, our kids need 48 credits to graduate. 32 of them are specific. So we have to make sure that they get all of those credits. And if they fail anything or come from a different school, we have to make sure they get into the right classes. Plus, Colorado requires certain competencies in math and English, so we have to make sure they meet those.
Okay.
But on the other side, we also do a lot of the social emotional stuff, you know, meeting with kids as they deal with the stressors of adolescence and high school and work with them there. And then plus, we're sort of the liaisons between teachers, admin, school, parents, and the school. You know, we're kind of the cog of all of them. You know, teachers will come to us about things, students will come to us about things, admin will come out about, because we're not administrators, but we're not teachers. We're sort of a different entity.
Okay.
The school psychologist, again, it's most of their focus is on special education and working with those kids that have individual education plans.
Okay. Nice.
But they also, in our school at least, we partner with them all the time. They help, you know, they work with us when we have to do suicide assessments, risk assessments, and any kind of psycho-emotional stuff.
Okay. And I know this is not in the question, but I'm just very curious. So due to COVID, the outbreak, I mean, during COVID, how does it work?
Well, it's interesting. Most of my counseling, I call it cyber counseling. I was, you know, trading emails with kids. You know, kids would email me, I'd email them, and we'd go back and forth. Or once in a while, we'd do like Zoom meetings or Google Meets.
Okay.
You know, and some of the scheduling and all that we could still do without face to face, but it was very different. It was,
yes.
In some ways, it was much easier because I ask kids come into my office all the time when they're here. And you have to deal with all the adolescent stuff of the he said, she said dramas and all that. I didn't have to deal with that at all last year because
Yes,
the kids weren't interacting.
correct.
But it was very hard for teachers. So
All right, that's true as well. Yes. So I suppose you had a lot of emails to read every day. So
I always have a lot of emails to read.
wow, okay. All right, let's go to the second question here. So what type of, okay, you already touched a little bit on this. So what type of data do you analyze? What is the data, where is this data obtained, and what is the purpose for which the data are analyzed, both group and individual data?
I would say a counselor probably doesn't use data as much as other people, other positions in the building. But we obviously we look at those SAT scores, PSAT scores, those sort of things. We look at their, the grade reports, how they're functioning there. And then, we work with kids at 504 plans, ALPs, ELL kids, IEPs.
Yes, it's a lot, yes.
Public education, only the military uses more acronyms and initials than public education. We're right behind you guys. So there's lots of things we have to look at, but for the most part, I try to take it one student at a time.
Oh, great. Let's see. And what happened as a result of the data you analyze?
Well, it might impact the types of classes that we offer. It certainly, right now, as I mentioned, there's these new graduation competencies that kids have to pass. And so we have, 100 kids or so, and then it's just an arbitrary number, 100 kids that need to meet their math competency. So we have to figure out how they're going to do that. And we have to look at, they could pass the ASVAB test. So we have to look at, we're going to host the ASVAB 4 times. And that's based on how many kids we know need to meet that competency. So, it impacts some of the things we offer, or if surveys are out and, we're seeing that there's a need, some of the more common things now, we're dealing with a lot more LGBTQ issues and things like that, and gender identity stuff. So we're looking at how we can address that, more groups, more diversity training, things like that. So.
Okay, great. You mentioned a picture, you mentioned the ASVAB as well. So I know the high school I went to, we also took the ASVAB, and we usually had like military personnel come in to distribute the test, and they will usually collect the data of who passed, who failed, and they usually give it to their counselors or I think something like that. So how do you do that, like for the ASVAB wise?
The results go to one of our administrators, and then we all kind of as a team sort of look at it and see who. For the ASVAB, and obviously it's one thing if they're actually looking to go into the military, yes. And then we don't have much to do with that. Then they're working with the recruiter on that.
Okay.
The ASVAB, we use it as a tool because it's one of the competencies that if they can pass the ASVAB with, I think I want to say a 32 or something like that.
Yeah.
They can, that demonstrates enough math competency, so they've met the state requirements. So we're now offering it 4 times a year as a way for kids to try to be successful in getting that competency taken care of.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And another question here. How do you collaborate with faculty and administrators?
We interact with them all the time. We trade emails, we meet, we have meetings, staffings. Just we're always in communication. It's just one giant team, and so.
One second. I just turn the light on. All right, keep going.
We have meetings all the time, and then we just constant email streams, of course, and then or we just go down to classrooms, or they come see us if they have concerns about kids, and vice versa. So
okay.
I just got back from a classroom talking with some math teachers actually about a couple kids and where they're at and what supports are being offered and things of that nature. So
okay, so I suppose they have like different so I guess administrations, I guess let's say there's like a math faculty staff, there is a English faculty, I guess, and then yeah, do they sometimes come here?
It's different in every school. I mean, we're lucky at Whitefield High School that we have great administrators, great teachers, great support staff, and we all really get along, communicate well. That's not always the case.
Yes.
And the different administrators are responsible for overseeing different staff. And so one AP might oversee math and science, another one might oversee special education and non-licensed staff, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then as counselors, we're broken up at our school. We're broken up by grade level. So I have the class of 2024. So they're sophomores right now.
Okay.
They'll be mine again next year when they're juniors.
Uh-huh.
Some counseling departments break it up by name.
Mm-hmm.
Some do a mixture, different things.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Now for the last question here, okay, this is a long one. So what ethical issues have you experienced related to gathering, analyzing, and making decisions in response to data you collect? So,
well, I mean, data can be skewed. Like I said, as a counselor, I use data a little differently, and you know, kids are evolving. You know, kids are different. You know, you don't have data on hormones, and
right.
So a sixth grader is going to be vastly different than a ninth grader. You know, a third grader is going to be vastly different than a ninth grader, and so you know, some of the data you get from elementary,
mm-hmm.
It's not going to really be relevant at the high school level. You know, we have kids that might have behavior problems in elementary, but
mm-hmm.
and you know, you can get data about all their behaviors and all the concerns teachers have, but maybe they're just fine at high school.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe the hormones kick in and all of a sudden there's all kinds of issues that they didn't see at the elementary level. So, you know,
mm-hmm.
or you get data from a kid who transferred from another school and they struggled or something, but then they get over here and they do just fine. You know,
mm-hmm.
Data is one thing, but as a counselor, we're dealing with the person, and there's a lot of things behind the data.
Okay.
For example, that I mentioned the math competencies. We have kids who are in AP calculus
mm-hmm.
who did not get high enough score on the SAT math section
uh-huh.
to meet the math competency.
Okay.
So they're in AP calculus. You know, you don't get much higher than AP calculus. They clearly understand math.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't do well on the SAT. And so was that a bad day on the test, or do they have test anxiety? Is the SAT a screwy test? You know, all these factors are you have to figure out that aren't necessarily part of the data itself.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
so,
correct. Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't always judge things just by numbers and letters. You got to look at the person.
Correct. Yes, I agree with that. I'm just going to jump here really quick because this question here. So I know where to answer this. I just have one more question over there. So
sure.
Yes. Is there any responsibilities that you share with teachers as a guidance counselor?
Well, I mean, we're responsible for the same students. So, you know, we meet with the kids and or we meet with teachers. You know, teachers see these kids every day.
Uh-huh.
You know, they see. If you were one of their students, they see Cornelius every day. And so they get to know them a lot better than we do. You might come and talk to me about some major issue, and I get to know you at a different level on something very serious. Then I might not see you again
Correct.
For a month or 2 months. I don't know. It all depends on the nature of it. And so we rely on teachers to tell us stuff. They'll say, hey, can you check in on Cornelius? He looks like he's been struggling lately, or Cornelius, you know, has been asking for food lately, or Cornelius is wearing, you know, the same shirt he's been wearing for 4 days. Like, we might not notice that. And so they tell us that, and then we can go and say, hey, Cornelius, what's up? And then we can talk to you. Or, you know, a parent emails us about an issue or concern. We can, you know, their son or daughter had a medical situation, a surgery. I'll reach out to the teachers and let them know, hey, this student's going to be out for 2 weeks, or if you share with me something very powerful, you know, your father was killed or something, with your permission, I might share that with the teachers and say, hey, you need to know that we have a student who recently lost their father. So kind of treat them with kid gloves, you know? So we collaborate and work and communicate all the time.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your time. I just Okay, to close out, do you have any advice you could give me as an incoming teacher that you think will make me an influential and great math teacher?
My advice to you is know that you are going to be a hot property,
Yeah.
that you can probably pick what school you want to work at, where, and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And you know, so do your research and look into it. Make sure you're moving into a situation that's right.
Mhm.
Public education's tough. We are asked to do incredible things, and we're the crossroads. You know, in society, you see all the things on CNN and Fox News about pro-mask, anti-mask, pro-Biden, pro-Trump, anti-Biden, anti-Trump, all the stuff. Well, we're at a crossroads for all of that. We get
Yes.
everybody,
Mhm.
and people don't really realize. You know, parents tend to think about only their kids and don't stop and think that I've
Mhm.
got 350 sophomores. You know,
Wow.
you know, we've got 1,200 kids. You know, and so when you come in here saying, you know, this and this, and you need to do this for my son or daughter, I'd
Mhm.
love to, but there's a line outside. You know,
Mhm.
so you know, it's a tough job to get into. And it doesn't pay well.
Mhm.
But if you do get into it, I mean, you're in the Army, so you, depending on how long you stay in that, you'll get something. But buy years early.
Yes, sir.
Buy years early. That's my biggest advice to you.
Awesome. But thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your time.
You got it.
All right.
Good luck.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Come work for Widefield. We'll take you.
You know what? I'm actually going to think about it because, yeah, it's a good school.
Hey, we're a very good school, and
Yeah.
we need math teachers. Everybody does.
Okay.
All right. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much, sir. You have a nice day.
You as well.